So today I wanted to talk about some popular topics that I'm familiar with in my personal life that come up in heart sessions a lot. These are not the only topics I'm familiar with, and they're definitely not the only topics that come up in heart sessions. But my hope is that this kind of gives you a better feel for my general vibe on some popular topics that are coming up from people. People definitely also ask me advice in these sessions, just in general, that have nothing to do with my past experiences or my life at all. But I know that some people come in specifically to ask me advice based on my past experiences in regards to what they're currently going through. And so I thought that this would be helpful for that group of people specifically. And of course, if you do have any questions for me in regards to a heart session, please reach out via my website, or you can DM me on Instagram for a faster response at S.O.S Guidance. As always, all sessions are booked through my website. Please don't get scammed, guys. Breakups. Breakups are definitely difficult no matter who initiated the separation. Like everybody, I felt the pain of rejection, whether that's somebody leaving me physically or leaving me emotionally, causing me to physically end it. I've been in situations where I've had to say goodbye just solely for my own well-being, but still being very much in love with that person and just feeling the pain of loving someone, but also knowing what I want and honoring my truth and having to strengthen boundaries when people are coming back in with the same energy and not changing. And it can be so hard when you really want to be held by somebody that you love, and in that same breath, you have to surrender to what your body is saying and feeling. And I think this specific situation is in breakups is, because there's so many, right, is really difficult because it's almost like you're at war with all the different parts of yourself. And obviously we're always trying to be in union with all parts of ourselves. So it's hard when your heart and your emotions are leading you in one direction and your inner knowing and your body is maybe telling you to go a different way. This is where I found the best advice being to surrender to your inner knowing and just surrendering that everything is always working out for you. Everything's going to work out for you. I noticed that this is the space where a lot of people get caught up in their heads. They have a really hard time making decisions. The questions start being outside based, like, well, what is he thinking? What is his truth? How does he really feel? Where is he or she coming from? When you just surrender to knowing that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know any of that stuff. You just need to know, does this feel right now in this moment? And if the answer is no, then there's your answer. And you don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? Maybe this person then steps up, comes back in, maybe they don't. Either way, you are for sure going to receive what is meant for you. And you can't do that inner work for anybody. Sometimes you have to walk away for someone to appreciate your worth and your value and for you to really know where you stand with somebody. And if they're not coming back, that's really painful too, but then that's not your person. I've also definitely been in situations where I've separated with someone and knew it was the right move, felt like it was a good decision, really been as ready as I could to leave the situation, and still felt that pain of the void, the pain of having to mourn someone that you used to love, having to mourn the future that you had in your heads with someone that's not going to happen anymore. And I felt like I would never move on. And I've, reminisced and I've sat and got caught in negative thought patterns of regret and unworthiness and really let it take pieces of my happiness and my life and been through the wide range of emotions that you go through. And I've made it through, and you will too, I promise. I know that people say this, but take it from someone that gets extremely attached to people and is extremely sensitive. You will make it through. You will be okay. Open relationships. I've been through the beautiful twists and turns of an open relationship, and I'm here to say no judgments. If you're new to open relationships and navigating it with a partner or dealing with difficulties that come up with having to consider multiple emotions and feelings that come up with multiple partners and yourself, then I can definitely relate. I was in an open relationship for 3 or 4 years, and it was a great experience for me personally. It's not something that I would probably be open to again, but I can definitely relate to all the things that are involved in the beauty and the struggles of an open relationship. Long distance relationships. It's hard when that person that you want to be with can't be with you physically, right? And I've definitely experienced the ups and downs of a long distance relationships, or relationship. The doubt, I'm still like, mine says still in the open relationships. No, this was just a monogamous relationship. Anyways, yeah, I can definitely relate to the struggles, of the ups and downs of a long distance relationship, the doubts, the struggles, all the positive things that make it impossible to leave the situation and really be willing and wanting to maybe move on with somebody that is closer in proximity to you. Also being surrounded by the community that is telling you it could all be so different when you're in closer proximity for longer periods of time, and just all those doubts that come up in your head and all those fears and insecurities. And I've also experienced the shift when you do make that move to be closer to each other for the long term. So no matter what your choice is, you got this. I know it's so difficult when your energy is feeling one thing and you don't have that physical 3D proof to back it up. And I would love to help you navigate your feelings if you're finding the pressure a little bit intense. New relationships. Fun, beautiful, scary as shit. As someone with Venus and Scorpio in my first house, I can honestly say there's nothing more exciting and terrifying than new love. And just navigating yourself and another person, figuring out their space while you're trying to honor yours. I'm really good at discussing finding yourself in relationships and honoring yourself in relationships while navigating new relationships, and just discovering how to stay yourself when you're falling in love with somebody else who may be completely different than you. New relationships is one of my favorite things to talk about. So if you are currently in a new relationship, you've come to the right place. Infidelity. In high school, my first boyfriend cheated on me with one of my best friends, then gave me chlamydia and told me it was from me being molested when I was young. So there's a lot to unpack there. But the good thing is that I can kind of like, I don't want to say laugh about it now, but there was a point where I was like devastated about this, obviously. And I know how it feels to question everything. I know how it feels to compare yourself to other people and feel unworthy of love. At the time, I literally thought I would die. When this first happened, I'm someone that's pretty emotionally sensitive, and high school was probably the peak of me just being so sensitive. And this is something that at the time was like the worst thing that had ever happened to me. It was like one thing after another. And I thought, I'll never get over this. Also had to be around these people a lot because we shared a lot of friends, and there were just certain situations where we would run into each other a lot. And I remember people telling me like, oh, one day you'll get to a point where like you won't remember this anymore. And I was like, yeah, right. I'm never getting over this. And, I literally never think about this anymore. It took me a really long time to feel that way, because there are so many different things that are attached to being cheated on and, infidelity and things like that, to where I think it obviously took me some time to get over like the situation and like the people involved and stuff. But then there's also like a trust factor and just a lot of little elements that really have nothing to do with the person and everything to do with how you find yourself showing up in new relationships and examining how you're showing up for yourself. But I'm okay now, and you will be too. Which brings us to our next topic, feelings of unworthiness. So feelings of unworthiness are really at the root of most relationship issues. If you've not felt good enough, The surprise is that everybody's not felt good enough at one point in their life, right? And you're more than good enough. I'm really convinced that the key to all love is self-love, and not going to the spa and painting your nails self-love. That can be a form of self-love, but really just loving yourself unconditionally so that you can in turn be loved unconditionally by others because you're open to receiving love from yourself. So this is really about identifying the parts of you that you feel are unlovable, and it's loving those parts. That's the work. This can be hard when you have a really deep core belief that, some part of you is just completely unlovable. But when you can do that, you move closer and closer to yourself, and you move closer and closer to loving yourself unconditionally. And you start to show up in a more authentic way. Because the more you start to accept yourself for how you are, the less you are showing up in ways that are covering that up, or, the less you're showing up in a way that is not authentic to you, but maybe you feel like, oh, this version is cooler. So the more that you start showing up as yourself in a more authentic way, that's when you start attracting people who are in love with that authentic version of you, who are then able to mirror back to you that unconditional love that you seek in other people. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Like I said, DM me if you have any other questions for me in regards to booking a session. You can book a session on my website, SOSguidance.com. I do have a limited number that I can do a month just because I'm one person. So check back if the scheduling app or calendar is down, because a lot of the times I'll just take the calendar widget off my website if I end up getting booked up. I love you guys. Be gentle on yourself.